97?
Hi,
96.
good to see ya.
96. Wow.
All right, well, we're going to get started. How's everybody doing? Good?
Yeah. Thank you.
So for those of you that don't know, my name is Angela Marie Hutchinson, and I am the founder of Breaking in Hollywood. So I started this organization in 2005. Hey, Keith.
Hey, how are you?
And we've been running strong ever since. You know, we have a lot of different speakers that cover pretty much every aspect of the business. So we focus a lot on writers, directors, and producers just because I think that's one of the, it's not that it's more traditional, it's just a harder somewhat path. We do cover a lot of actors, but there's just so many more resources I feel like for actors. And probably because I myself am a writer producer, I tend to like skew the programming in a way that benefits and helps me too, you know, so I can learn and soak up information because I get so much from the attendees and our members as I hope to, you know, give, you know, myself and the speakers. So our next couple of events we have coming up, we have an executive from Warner Brothers. It'll be, I think it's like the first or second week in June. So, and if you by coming today, you'll be added to our email list. So you'll definitely, you know, that way you'll be on our email list and get all of my lovely little emails.
Cool. Because that's like when pitching season starts, right?
Yeah, well,
and
you know what I mean? I guess sorta-ish, yeah.
So it's a year round.
Yeah, because it goes year round. But they, the lady who's coming from Warner Brothers, she runs the Warner Brothers workshop. So she'll be able to kind of give us insight on how to get in there and, you know, obviously the things are always posted on how to get in, but it's always just good to get inside information from someone who's like looking at all the applications, telling you the mistakes that people do, things that you know are often missed. So I'm excited about that one. And then we also have, I think before that, we're gonna have a literary manager. We're still trying to work out the date, but so that'll be cool too. Well, I think she represents actors too, though. Actually, no, she represents actors and writers. So anyway, So in terms of like, so I'll tell you a little bit about me, you know, because I am the speaker. Usually I'm not. Usually I'm not the speaker. Usually, you know, I try to make sure we have someone that's, you know, like a power player, someone who can really either, you know, is usually working inside the industry as an executive or as a manager. But I often find, because I've attended a lot of events through the years, that sometimes when you are hearing from power players, they're giving you, you know, their version through their eyes. And I think sometimes it's nice for us to connect with each other because we can give you, I can share my experience. Okay, how did I get represented? And it may not be the same way for you, but at least you can see, okay, this is one person's journey, and very authentically, like, this is the steps she actually did and it worked for her. So possibly try it, see if it works for you, or put your spin on it with whatever you're doing and see if it can work. So, so in terms of a little bit about me, let's see. So I am originally from Chicago. I went to University of Michigan. I studied actually engineering. So
oh my gosh.
Something totally like left field. I never actually worked in engineering except for when I finished college. I started working as an editor for an engineering magazine. And I met my husband in college, and he's a rocket scientist. So, you know, that worked out. But other than that, you know, I'm not really.
Lori. A rocket scientist.
But other than that.
Girl, that's jackpot.
So crazy. But other than that, you know, I have not really worked in that space. But, you know, I definitely understand the mind of, like, engineers, which is a pretty cool thing. And I think because of my background in engineering, I think it's definitely helped me to, like, tailor my pitches and things like that, because I have a very, like, left side, very literal way of looking at something. But then I'm also very creative. So I think, you know, when you can balance those things, they can help. So I moved out here many years ago, probably, like, I came out here right after 9/11. That was, like, a crazy time because I had like a job interview set up for NBC, and like the day that my interview happened was 9/11, and so that interview did not happen, obviously. And then they went on a hiring freeze for like months. I was like, oh my gosh. Ended up just doing a lot of temping and stuff like that. But my first like official industry job was actually working for the Grammys, and I really had no interest in the entertainment business. I mean, in the music business side, because it's just a total different thing. But that was one of the just most important things I could have ever done for my career, because I met one of my closest mentors. And this woman who actually runs, Angela Bibb Sanders, who actually is, you know, affiliated with LA Film School, which is why we do our events here. She has just been very instrumental in helping me to get to where I am today. in terms of like meeting certain people. So I really encourage people, like, you don't need a whole group of mentors, you don't need 5 and 6, you just really need one person kind of rooting for you, someone you can ask advice for, someone you can say, even though she's in a totally different field in some regards, I can say, I'm trying to do this. Do you know anyone who does this? You know, I also teach at LMU as a social media professor. And when I was trying to get a job as a professor, I was like, okay, I really want to teach, you know, social media. I mean, not social media. I really want to be a professor, an adjunct, just to kind of have something coming in. I'm also giving of myself and teaching. And, you know, it kind of fits a lot of different things. And I talked to her, and I ended up meeting someone. She introduced me to someone right away. It took about 2 years for something to happen from that meeting, but it happened. And it was a direct connection through her. And so many of my experience, my very first writing assignment, like I got paid $25,000 for, again, came through her. Not her, but just a connection I had met through her. And so that's happened with not just her, but other mentors who have just been really key people. So I really encourage you, if you don't have one, to find one. And it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that's in your exact field. A lot of times we look for a mentor, we're looking for another director, or, you know, we're trying to find an executive. We're trying to find someone that's linked to the direct opportunities we want. But not necessarily do you have to find someone that's like so specific to, you know, the area which you're trying to go to. So, so let's see. So I'm gonna speed through. So I used to work as a talent agent for a couple years representing actors. I did that for about 2.5 years, and I had my first child. Realized agenting wasn't really for me. I felt like it was a very, you know, it's very sales. You know, when you're an agent, you really are you're selling people in some regard in the talent. But that was definitely a great learning experience, and I met a lot of contacts and got exposed to like a lot of film festivals and just a lot of filmmaking. So I left from being an agent, and I went to go into casting. And so because I'd be pitching my clients, and I'd be meeting with casting directors. And so I'm like, you know, I think that's what I need to be doing, casting, because you're a little bit more connected to the creative process. So I started casting for a couple years. I ended up doing a bunch of indie films, probably about a dozen indie films, TV pitches, just a lot of stuff. And I met a lot of contacts, and I would spend a lot of time on set. And the woman who gave me my first feature film casting job was, you probably know her, Tangi Miller, who's an actress. And she was, again, a form of a mentor, more of a colleague in some regard. But definitely I saw her do what she was doing in terms of, like, you know, making these movies for, you know, low budget films, but able to actually become very successful in doing it. I just watched what she did, how she did, and she was so open in sharing, like, what she was doing. She was never really secretive about, like, oh, this is what, you know, it was no secrets. Like, come over to my house, this is what's going on, you know, and then, like, and she brought me into her circle, in terms of, like, a professional standpoint. And so from that, I ended up getting other casting gigs. And then I decided, at some point, you know, I think I want to produce a feature film. So I ended up producing my first feature, Hollywood Chaos. I guess that was like, that was like a couple years ago. So that might have been maybe 3 years ago. Time goes by so fast. And so I did that as a SAG, ultra low budget feature. So it's under $200,000. And Vanessa Simmons is in that, Ty Lepley from the Haves and Haves Nots. So we had, you know, definitely some, like, name actors, but it wasn't a huge list of name actors, but we definitely had very, like, actors who've been seasoned and had recognizable faces, which is really important for getting distribution. That's like everything when it comes to getting distribution. So shot the film, we shot it in 7 days, we shot it in LA, and then we shot some parts in France. And then I ended up getting distribution maybe about 6 months after, got paid. I like to say that's important, you know, like got in advance for the film. And then it aired on Hulu and some other countries. Right now it's streaming on Urban Movie Channel. So, you know, the great thing, as you guys know, you know, you're in film school, so a lot of you, and so, you know, when you have a film product, it can keep, you know, becoming financially lucrative because you already did it, and it just, you know, you're kind of making money in your sleep in some regard if you can continue to create something that can play on multiple platforms. So, so in that process, so I did a feature. After that, I directed another. I didn't direct that one, so I wrote, produced, and cast that one. But then after that, I did my own, I decided to direct a documentary. So this was before the Me Too movement, like just before. I did a documentary called Hush, which stands for Hollywood's Uncovered Sexual Harassment. And so, so I shot that film, PBS bought it, it aired, and then just locally, PBS locally. And then that was like another, you know, calling card in some regard. And this was, all done without an agent. And then after that, I really sort of got pulled into the unscripted space because another mentor of mine was working as like a VP of programming and was like, the unscripted space is really where you can really kind of get in, because it's not that it was starting, but it was like the doors were a little bit more open. Now it's not like that. It's tough now. Really, almost any area, people are going more digital, but even that is very difficult. Because think about it, like even with like Netflix, there was like 5 years ago, celebrities weren't necessarily trying to do Netflix deals. Right now, it's like, so when you see the celebrities on there and getting deals, it's very harder for someone like you or I to get those like lucrative deals. So anyway, so I dived into the unscripted space, and I ended up getting, just like having a lot of success in that, I ended up getting about 14, I think at 15, production company deals, basically meaning, so I had like 15 option agreements with different companies.
Wow.
From GRB, Authentic, Relativity Television, just like a couple in Canada, bunch of different companies that basically optioned an idea I had, and then they went to pitch it to networks. And so with that would be I either had a sizzle I had shot and produced, or I put together the sizzle with like a rip-o-matic, just clips, kind of trying to explain the idea, or I had a talent reel, some talent, or I had a pitch document of some sort. Everything ranged from like crime shows to just like family docu-series, business docu-series, competition shows, just like a wide range of programming. Came very close, very, very close on one of them to getting it to the FY network, but the deal ended up falling through. But aside from that, and so with those production company deals, I did majority of them without an agent, but I did get signed with ICM in the process. So, which I thought was, kind of interesting. It's cool. Okay, you got your representation, and I'll talk to you kind of how I got that representation. But, the agent was really more so, the reason why they signed me is because the project in particular was something that they thought they could make a lot of money on because of the talent that was attached, and I was very tied to. And so that was sort of the calling card for them. But at the end of the day, it's like kind of once that project didn't go through, they're kind of like, okay, in that space, they really want you to stay in that space. So my agent will be like, what are you working on next? And I'm like, well, actually, my film just got distributed, and so I have to do something with that. And he was like, okay, time is ticking. And so when you don't have something that, like, the thing about getting representation is that when you have representation, you really need to be ready to just like go whatever it is. If you're a writer, you need to be ready to write multiple stuff or have stuff just ready to go. So it's really good to just have a nice portfolio body of work, or if you're a filmmaker, whatever it is, so that you will be ready when the opportunity comes. Because in that example, I was not ready. So yeah, I was signed by ICM, and that's cool. And I had a couple projects. I had like 2 projects, but it was like they moved so fast. They're like, okay, we got those. Like, we got an agreement with this company and that company. What else do you have? Because it's robust. It's like, you have to have so many out there going in the space so that you can then hopefully get to land one. Yep.
When you have so many.
And feel free to ask questions, because I talk really fast, and if you have any questions about anything, you don't have to wait till like any point. Yep.
Are these all completed projects, or are you just writing treatments to some, or some you're writing a full season out, or?
Yeah, none did I never wrote a full season out. So everything was either, the shortest idea might have been a 1-page document. Maybe it had some pictures, a log line, the basic premise, and maybe like the format. That would be like the smallest thing. Probably the most I created would be a sizzle that I put a lot of money, not a lot, but I would say I think the most I spent on the sizzle was like maybe $500. So not a lot, but too much. That's too much to spend on the sizzle. I would never spend $500 on a sizzle ever. There's just
$500
dollars. Yeah, there's no reason to spend $500 on a sizzle, and I'll tell you why. We can talk about that too. So I spent $500 on it, and I had a lot of people helping me through the process and stuff. It was really glitzy, glammy, amazing looking. I did get that was my first project, and I got that one with GRB, and so in that I did have maybe like a 4-page pitch document also that had the talent, who they were, what XYZ about them.
Are you using, because I'm not using it as I'm pitching, I'm not using decks. Are you using decks now or not?
Deck is a very loose term. So I probably had one that you would consider a deck.
Okay.
I probably had one, and by deck, to me, deck meant like I used PowerPoint for
Right,
it.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Right?
Yeah,
And it was a little bit more, I have one, but that I did a deck for one, but that one never actually that's not one of the deals. Let me say that. Because of the 14 deals, like signed documents that I've had with different production companies, I probably created another, 10. So
I'm asking this, I'm in the process of emailing pitches and stuff, and then they'll ask me, do you have an outline, do you have a script, do you have a Bible, something. Next I send them an outline, or maybe the first season of all the episodes or something. But I'm doing that without the deck. But then someone manager was telling me you have to have a deck, but I don't think you always had to.
yeah, I feel like, everything is so specific. Like, I feel like you never have to have anything.
Okay.
Seriously, you never need an agent, you never need any of this stuff. You basically just need a really great idea.
Right.
But that great idea is hard to get through when you don't have
Sure.
an agent and so forth. So it's kind of like you don't really need it, but then it's like you kind of do need something.
Right.
But a lot of it is, people, I think it also depends on the executives. So like some executives might respond more to a pitch deck, you know what I mean? And I sort of got the lay of the land. Like once I started getting traction with a couple deals, like one company in particular, like I would just be like, hey, I literally would text her and be like, hey, one of the execs, hey, I have a great idea. I just came up with something.
Sure.
I kind of give them a pitch in a log line. They like, let's hear it. We have a conference call the next day. You know what I mean?
But I almost feel like, since a majority of people are giving decks, there's so much to go through in a deck that someone's going to just send the email with the log line and the title
Yeah.
and the premise.
I think the less is better.
That's what I think. So.
Yeah, I think less is better unless they're really
I
invested
think they
in
have
you.
a stack of decks to look at already.
There's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
There is a lot. I think there's a lot of stuff for people to look at, and I think videos is probably a little bit better if there's a way to get that pitch deck into a video format. Even if it's like one crime show, I optioned. It was literally my voice, which is not good. I am not a voiceover actor at all. And I had text some friends who I knew who were, but it was like by the time they give it to me, they're busy. I was like, I can have this done tonight. Like I don't have time for that.
Right.
So it was like I put some pictures together, literally just put them together, read my voice underneath, put it, and I'm not even using like real editing. Like I'm using like Microsoft like Maker, something super basic, not the stuff you guys are like professionally using, okay? And put it together, and it's like, and it got optioned because it was like the idea was so core, it's solid. It's like it was about the idea. And when you have a good idea and it's good, everybody can see, oh my gosh, that's a good idea, and you don't really need a lot for that good idea. It becomes more complex as you go, depending on how it evolves, because you know, in the development process, like once you get it optioned, we then went into development. And that took longer. And then you are creating, the company then is creating those huge pitch decks.
Right.
So they are then, like I'm seeing what they're creating, and it's like these huge, like 15 page, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, can we scale back? You guys liked it like this. Yeah. Just present this to them, But you let the professionals do what the professionals do, and But does that answer the question?
It does, just because I felt like it's going to encumber everything. If I just want to get something really easy to open an email and glance at, because they're so busy. I think anything else.
Yeah, I also used to do what I used to do is I used to also do like a JPEG photo that would have like an image or something to really specifically represent the concept, and then I have like a paragraph. Form as a JPEG. So when they get my little pitch, they can open up that little image. They're like, oh, okay. Oh, bam. And they can like forward it. They can text it to like, so they can forward it really quickly, and they don't have to explain. It's like all there. So that's another way where just to have something visual. So there's a lot of little things like that I think you can do, but you can spend less time on.
I think as easy as you can get it to them is the easiest part.
Yeah, and the most of my time, because I have 3 children, so everything with me has to be like, what can I do really quickly and get it done? Because it's like I can't spend months on something. Like unless it's like a paid thing and I'm like hired to do this thing, then sure I can spend all day. But if not, or within that time frame. But does that answer your question though in terms of like what was needed? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, anything, it can range. And then to the $500, you were kind of like, you felt like that was like pretty low, right?
I'm not even gonna tell you how much I spent on myself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I don't even know how you did that.
Yeah. So I did have some favors along the way for sure, but I think
I had no favors.
I definitely had some favors, and so that helped. But I think that, because I've seen, let me just say this, I've seen a lot of amazing sizzles that people have done for a lot of money, and then nothing necessarily happened with them. And then I've seen some of the sizzles that people have done that pretty much are no money, and those things got picked up. And the reason why this happens is because, like, I'll tell you about. So the meeting I had at GRB, it was me. It was like the president of the company, like Craig Pillagin, or however you say his name, and not GRB, Pilgrim Studios. So I was pitching Pilgrim Studios, and so the whole company was there. They had all seen the thing, and the first thing they asked me, they were like, you know, who shot this? And I was like, oh, I shot it. They were like, what do you mean you shot it? And I was like, oh, you know, I mean, I hired like a DP. I hired someone. They're like, so you put this whole thing? I was like, yeah. They were like, oh, okay, because it was very gloss. It was very gloss. Now they didn't end up taking that pitch. I mean, it ended up going to someone else. But I found out sort of after hearing like one of the other executives, they were like, next time, they were like, your stuff was so glossy and so poppy that it was like, they were like, well,
what can we do for you?
Exactly. They were
too well produced.
But they were like, is this the show? Is this the show? Because I mean, if this is all the show is, then maybe it's not that good. So if you dumb it down a little bit,
dang.
And I hate to say dumb it, that's not a good word. Do you know what I'm saying? If you make it not as polished and it's a little bit more like rough around the edges, it's like, okay, we see the core. They see, you're giving them an opportunity to see something, and then they want to put in their input into it. Yeah.
You kind of got me lost when you say you're spending money on a scissor reel.
Okay.
Because our teachers, like professors here, we basically take like clips of different movies and stuff from YouTube, and we put it together.
Which is what you should be doing.
That way we don't have to like.
That's what you should be doing.
Wait. What y'all do?
Yeah, it's called a Rip-O-Matic, basically.
What class is that?
It's called a Rip-O-Matic, where you basically take stuff that already exists. You know, you download. There's a great thing. A lot of people don't know this.
Yeah.
So there's a website called Clip Converter, I think, like dot whatever you know, where you can. Some people don't, where you can take that website. You can use that website. You can take any YouTube link, almost any YouTube link, and you can upload it to there for free, right? And then it will pull that video down for you, so that you can have that video if it's a news clip or whatever. And, you know, there's probably some other sites. That's just what I use because it's quick, it's easy, whatever. But there's probably some other more professional sites. But, and then once you have that, you can just, like, cut it together. Yeah. And basically, and that's what you should be doing because then you're just spending your time to edit.
Yeah.
And, you know, most of us can kind of figure out how to edit, you know, if, you know.
So are you...
They don't have to spend any money. I mean, you might lay your music. I mean, even that, you can lay your music in.
So you're piecing other concepts together, but it's not what you actually...
No, it's
It's
more
just
doing
the
it to make
idea
a
of
story.
what your story's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What it's supposed to be
So that way,
about.
that way, the person that you're pitching to, they get the idea of what you're trying to
What Houston
portray.
did.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
kind of like a video collage in a sense of just this is what it's supposed to look like and what it's supposed to kind of feel.
And what I'll do is I'll send you guys, too. I'll send you out one of mine. I did one called The Sex Fast. And so
The sex fast?
Yeah.
Like no sex?
Right,
Oh.
for 30 days. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So
did you do that?
Oh, that's interesting.
And
30
then,
days.
but yeah, but this whole idea, because you know it came from, was the actor in his, I can't think of it right now. He was in the White Chicks movie, the actor.
Marlon?
No, what's his White Chicks?
Oh,
He's got the wife, you know, she's real
yeah.
thirsty. I can't remember his name right now. My brain is
from
dead.
Chris Rock's show.
Yeah.
He does his muscles.
Yes. You know what I'm talking about?
The agent grabbed his penis.
Terry Crews. There
Terry
we go.
Crews.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Terry Crews and his wife, they did.
It's the only part you remember.
So Terry Crews.
Grab your penis.
So
You gonna
Terry,
remember too.
so Terry Crews and his wife did a sex fast, and so they had a whole thing, and I was like, ooh, that would be so interesting as a concept. You had couples or people all different, you know, come together agreeing, can you do this or whatever. So basically, Kim was an idea, and I think I cut it 2 hours one night and pulled like maybe like 8 different videos. I had something they had done. I mean, I saw a clip of them talking about it on the news or something, and then just a bunch of other people that were like talking about, it wasn't even related, but they might have said something like, you know, sex is everything to me, but, and then I would just get that, but, and then another person, you know,
Therefore.
I would never go, blah, 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 and then you
Therefore,
just cut, and then I just cut it, and then the whole concept, like if you saw it, it's totally, like it's amazing. It's totally flows.
Please send that.
And so
I
I'll
wanna
send
see
that to you. Yeah, that way you can at least see it. Yeah, no, I'll send it to the whole group.
Everybody.
I'll
All
send
the
it to everybody.
emails.
I have a question, going back to when you were saying you were meeting with the pitch meetings.
Mm-hmm.
That's doing me and my production partner is in. We have everything ready. We have like 12 projects, 6 series, 6 movies. And our deal is we're trying to get representation, but I came here to understand, how were you setting up pitch meetings without an agent or a manager?
I mean, okay, so let me break it down
that's a good
twofold,
question.
because that's a great question, and I think it's different for, I mean, it's the same process essentially, but it is a little bit different because the unscripted space sort of operates one way. It's now merging to be like the scripted film and television. So I'll just stay directly on the film TV path and kind of leave the unscripted space a little bit. Because, I'll say with the unscripted space, now it's a lot harder in that they want you to have representation because so many people are just like trying to get in more than before. So they do want you to have representation. And so the way in with the unscripted route, which still works in the scripted in film, is production companies. So that's the answer. Like the best way, if you don't have representation, is to find the production companies. And the way you do that is by looking at, the credits or IMDb Pro or whatever and seeing who really produced the show. It's on this network, but who produced it. And those executives are often just a little bit more open. They're less bombarded. People are not contacting them. People are not querying them as much. You know what I mean? They're not getting as many emails.
You might sign a release or a waiver.
Yeah, you will sign. You will absolutely sign a release or waiver. Only in the beginning I was, and then once I kind of got once people had optioned different, or even if they didn't option, but I had been sending them enough stuff. Like there was one company in particular, they never optioned anything for me, but then I had a scripted TV show pitch and they just let me come in and pitch it. There was no representation, I didn't sign anything, but they were just used to okay, she's not gonna sue us, she seems pretty legit, and whatever. Once you kind of have
they
a
were legit too.
Yeah,
because they didn't steal it.
Yeah, but there you go. Well, we don't know, it might, if it shows up someday. We don't know.
I was going to interject that once you create an email path, the likelihood of them stealing is going to be remote because there's so much dialogue back and forth in these emails. I mean, it would be...
Well, I don't know, because a lot of the stuff I wasn't pitching in the email too.
Yeah.
So I'm so vague in the email.
Sure.
So
but what does that do?
What really happens is in the room.
Doesn't need too much,
But
when it comes to legality.
But if you're developing a relationship with somebody, so...
Yeah, I mean, that for me, copywriting and all that, I mean, I hardly copyright anything. In the beginning, I did a lot of that. I think you should do it. I think you should do it because it's a legitimate thing to do. But I don't think you should get too caught up in it because at the end of the day, like you said, it is relationships and you're just trying to move forward. I'm not even trying to sue nobody. And I actually have an example where we do think someone did steal something and they did err. But whatever, I don't have time to be I'm not trying to pursue it. This is not worth it. I had that great idea, I'll have another one. I just got to keep it moving.
Yep.
So production company is the way to go in.
Yes. I think production company is the way to go in, and then I also think that the other route is directly to the executives. So directly to, if it's directly to the cable network executive. So you might find either the creative exec, the director of development, any of those people. And how do you find them? I mean, once you know the person's name, you pretty much can find anybody's email. And if you're having any issues with that, I mean, basically my strategy has always just been Google, right? And so I'll put the first name, last name, or I'll put if I didn't know, let's say,
I've done that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can just find, once you know one, it's okay, for anybody that works at YouTube, anybody that works at, their email is first initial, last name at google.com. Okay, so.
That's YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube Originals. Anybody who, any company that owns Google, that's their email. So it's Warner Brothers. Okay, it's first name dot last name at warnerbrothers.com. Okay, once you have the formats, they're pretty much all the same. Or sometimes I don't have a ton of research, so I'll just put first initial last name dot last name at first name underscore at BCCM, so it doesn't look crazy you don't know who you're sending it to, because they're not going to pay attention. Which they're just going to see the email. They're not going to be did she know me? They're not even going to look up it, whatever. Right. BCC4 will come back. I know one went through. Okay, that one went through. That's their email,
But
so,
they may not stop. I did Netflix. I did 12 of them, and I know 1 or 2 did go through, but they never, I did repeatedly, didn't respond.
Yeah, and they may not. I'm just saying they may not. And it's also how. It's also how you get in. Because I think I have had, in the last 2 years, I probably have had responses almost let's say if I said 100, maybe a 90 out of 100 emails respond to me, and I do not know the person. So it's also what you're saying. So you have to say the lingo. You're not introducing yourself. You're kind of acting. I treat it as if, I don't lie, but I treat it as if I met them somewhere. So I have to give them that vibe of we kind of know each other a little bit. So I'm not going to say, hi, Mr. It's going to be hey. So I'm hey, Liz. Hope your morning's going great. I'm on my second cup of coffee, LOL. It's okay, who's going to start email like that if I kind of don't know you a little bit, Right. And then I might say, I have, I'll give you one really specific. So it was, is it AMC? AMC Networks? Yes. And so I emailed and said, I said, I'm a producer here in LA, and I've been working in the unscripted space, but I'm trying to transition over into scripted, and I have a really great idea. Just wanted to get an idea of what you guys are looking for in that space. She responded and said, oh, this is what we're looking for. That's all I asked her. I didn't say I had an idea to pitch. I did not, because one, I didn't even know if it would be good for them. So what I usually do is try to start the relationship and say, what are you looking for? That's a question they can either, sometimes I've had them attach a document. They'll attach a document, and I'm like, ooh, this is great. And they put the whole bullet list of whatever is like an internal document that like has everything they're looking for. It's a long list, and it's just, you know, and it has like when it was updated, that kind of thing from some meeting that they had. So that way it's more of an ask. And then it's like maybe, you know, I reply back, thank you so much. Thank you for this, because the idea I had wasn't even a good fit, you know. And just to say, and even if it was, it's just to kind of say like, I'm not going to try to set my boundaries. I'm not going to pitch you something that's not good, and they will respect that. Then I come back 2 weeks later, hey, you know, it's the same idea, or maybe it's not the same idea, but I did refine something that I thought was good, and then I go in with that, and then they're like, then they'll usually say, oh, you need to sign a release, and at that point I sign a release that basically gives away my rights to say that if they make this, I can't sue them, but I'm good with that. And then at that point, you know, so you can definitely go straight to the network, and a lot of the speakers we bring you will tell you you can't, and that's okay. I'm not gonna challenge them. I'll be like, this is true, this is because, you know, they don't want everybody doing it, you know, like they don't want everybody trying to contact them.
Gotta work for it.
Huh?
You gotta work for it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I think that's cool, you know, but once you get to a certain point, you're just like, I can't do this, so it's just like you just can't keep waiting for the agent, waiting for the manager. At some point you have to just start taking matters into your own hands, but you have to be very smart about doing it. So I think the production companies is one route. The second route is directly to the executives themselves, and in doing that, I don't think I have ever pitched someone. I have never pitched anyone just something in the film and television, in like film and scripted space. I've never just like pitched them an idea without sort of getting them to send me something back to say like, what are you looking for? Or but I never ask permission, and if I am pitching something, I never ask permission, like, can I send you this? I don't give them a reason to tell me no. I just kind of say like, you know, I have something for you, and, you know, just like the wording, so it's not like, you know, would you like to see it? None of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so one of my professors, Charlie, he told me to go and buy this book right here.
Okay, call sheet. Ooh,
Backstage call sheet.
Okay, backstage call sheet.
And it basically has a list of all agents and managers, and it'll tell you what they're looking for, if they take unsolicited offers or not. And it also tell you if you have to like email them or mail them. So my thing is like, I'm not sure how perfect that would, like, if that's the right way to go.
In terms of getting representation.
Yeah, about getting that. That's why I never reached out, because I'm like, okay, well, how many people do this a day?
Yeah. Oh, but you know what?
That's the business.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
A million. But, I mean, and what? How many people breathe? We all breathe. We walk it. I mean, how many people, you know what I mean? Like, how many people do what a day? Like, we don't have, listen, it is not about anybody else but you.
They're
and
waiting
your career
for you.
And what, you know, if you're religious, what God has called you to do. If you're not,
nobody
with
can
the
take
universe,
it from
whatever.
you.
You know what I'm saying? And so you have to focus on you, and you can't worry about who's done it a million times, because also people say queries don't work, they never work for me. Okay, but they worked for me, so I know they work. And they work for other people who I've like really helped to like tailor. It may not mean you get represented from that always, but you know, they do work. They don't always work. Of course, nothing is for sure, but I definitely think there's a way to tool it and tweak it enough where you can refine your ask. Because like before, when I was first, like 10 years ago, when I first was trying to get representation as a writer, particularly on the book space, right? So when I was trying to get representation, I would send these like, you know, they were emails, but they might have been like 3 paragraphs, small, but not like 3 big paragraphs, like respectful paragraphs, like kind of an opening, kind of like a little bit about myself, like kind of like what you're trained to kind of do, like a, you know, cover letter-ish query. And then, you know, I'll tell the query with the subject of the book or whatever. And then I would sit it in. I would hear from no one. And I would do it diligently to like 100 people. And like I would hear from no one. Then years later, after I come to workshops and just really kind of, you know, just understood how to do something, then I retrained, and I would really heavily research who I was contacting, number one, to see how, like, to see what kind of stuff they were looking for, to your point. So once I understood what they were looking for, I was able to say, okay, I have what you're looking for. And just really go smaller with my pitch to like, you know, from that 3 paragraphs to 1 paragraph. And I was able to get in, and I was able to, you know, that's how I got my my agent for my books, for my book agent, you know. And I sent out maybe like one night I sent out 10 emails, and the next morning I had 8 responses from different agents. And then basically at the end of it all, 2 of them decided they wanted to sign me, and I went with 1. But, you know, so, I mean, so basically, though, in that process, it was just refining of the pitch, of my thing. It also could have been the idea, too. Yeah. The idea could have been really core, but the idea was only core because of who I was emailing. Because the idea itself, if I emailed somebody else about my little idea and they didn't like it, you know, they would be like, whatever. I literally just last week got an email from an executive I had sent, and this I usually rarely do, but I've just been low on time, so I sent a mass email to like 75 people, BCC'd, you know, and I just said, hey, what was my little lead in? I just think I said, yeah, hey, I'm so excited, you know, I have a book deal, it's coming out July 1st, my book Create Your Yes, whatever, and I said, I have this show idea that would go great with the book, you know, here's a link to the trailer, the sizzle below, and, you know, I got a bunch of response back. But what was interesting is one person responded was like, oh my gosh, like our network, we would never ever do this. Ugh. Like, she was like, and because my book is called Create Your Yes, When You Keep Hearing No, she was like, this is one no you will not be able to change. It was hilarious. I screenshot this email. I was like, oh my gosh, I love you. This is like the best, like this kind of stuff gets me going. I'm like, oh my gosh, I so love this, because if I ever get a show on your network, I'm going to be using that. But anyway, but it was so juicy and fun. But then like 2 minutes later, another email came in from a very, very big exec and was like, Angela, we'd like to meet with you and my team. Can you meet us at the Fairmont Hotel? We're gonna be and it's like boom. So same idea did not work for one network, understandably so, because they did like history and like whatever they did, because I didn't know, because again it was the BCC, so I didn't take the time to research. I didn't have the time, so it didn't work for that network, but it worked, you know, for someone else. And you know, she was like, oh, we bought 2 of your books already. So you know, so I mean that is a whole. So it's not necessarily. It's finding the person who connects to your idea too. So you can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't connect to the person that understands your idea, then it isn't going to matter. So when they say in that book what they're looking for, really take that to heart. What is the production company looking for? Because that will really matter significantly into how you tailor your pitch and who you're pitching to. Right. To get representation. That goes for representation, and that also goes for it goes for representation, but it also goes to like the production companies, because if you send certain things to production companies, they're not always going to, you know, respond to it. Now I know also with a lot of networks, a lot of times we'll see something on a network and we're thinking, oh, our idea is similar to this, like we feel like it works, or but sometimes they're like not doing that kind of stuff anymore, or they already are backed up in their programming in that area. So that's why it's really good to get information on what are they looking for, because what we see on TV is not always what their programming slate is. Those are sometimes totally different things. Like what they're bringing in to buy for pitches is not what we're seeing on air. So we think we're lined up with what they're looking for, but we're not. So it's important to understand what are the buyers looking for.
So how are you approaching these deals as far as if you're creating these shows and the shows are like actually like getting greenlit or whatever? Like I thought that made you a showrunner. Like are you not optioning the people?
No show has ever been greenlit that I've done. So of those, so I've probably done like 20, maybe like 25. I've probably created 25 to maybe 30, maybe like 35 show ideas, from scripted to unscripted, and maybe like 2 films, right? Didn't have when I say that, didn't have the final scripts, but just had like concepts and maybe some talent and so forth. And so in that, of those, with those production companies deals, those are just an option agreement. You don't make any money, number one, from an option agreement, right? They're basically signing to say we're gonna shop it to networks, which is a great experience because you get to go often, not always, depending on the company, but you often get to go to these meetings, and you're in these meetings and watching them pitch your idea, which is an amazing experience to go through. And then you're going into all these networks, you know what I mean? And so you're getting to know sort of who the people are, who the players are, just reading the room, just things like that, where you just would never really, how would you otherwise have that experience? So you don't. So even though you're not getting paid, you're getting paid in another way. you know, you're getting paid in that experience and sort of like the process and understanding the lingo and how people communicate, even how they communicate to the team. Because even when they're put together, when they take your idea, they then redevelop it and repackage and create a whole new sizzle, totally different. So you get to see all their emails and all their process and sort of how that lingo works. And then when you try to pitch your next show or your next thing, your language that you're using is a little bit more like official. It's more like tied to, you know, how people are used to hearing information, and then they're more responsive to you because you sound like you're one of the executives, or you sound like you're in the community of it all. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay,
and
so
then
you saying you only do like the concept. You're not actually writing the whole entire pilot out. Because I know when you like write the pilot, and then let's say you write a Bible with it, then they cannot take that from you and be like, oh well, you know, we're just gonna change the whole concept, because they can do that with you just give an idea.
Right. So let me say this. So I've done that, but not with those deals. So I've had maybe 4 weeks ago, I had a children's series idea that it's based off of a book I had, but I've had to like retool it a million times over because the children's market has just changed so drastically. So I tried to just go like almost like 180 degrees with the concept. And so I, you know, revitalized the Bible and I have a finished script. I have the pilot script and I do have a Bible for it. But when I sent and again, I reached out, so the person it's with, I think it's either Fox. I think it's like Fox Kids, or I think it's either NBC Kids or Fox Kids. But anyway, reach out to them directly with an email, my same thing. Hi, I'm a producer in LA. I usually work in the unscripted space, and I have this you know property. I think it'd be great. Oh, and I will mention, I'll say happy to sign a release form. I'll bring it up to let them know I'm used to this. Like, I'm not trying to sue y'all. I'm not trying to like. I don't have sometimes depending on the person, I have said I used to be with ICM, I might give an explanation, but then I stopped doing that because I was like, why am I relying on ICM? I don't need them. No, just speak, Angela, like just say what you need. And I'd be like, you know, I'm not represented, but I am comfortable signing a release form. And then they will send me the release form back, and then I send in the pitch, and they got back to me in like 3 days.
Wow.
They were like, Angela, you know what, this isn't for us. For these reasons, we think you have something solid, but this is not for our demographic. And also before the pitch, when I said, you know, I have an idea, I said, are you still, because I had saw like a paragraph somewhere that they were what they were looking for. I said, are you still looking for this stuff? And they sent me back a list of what they were looking for, and I thought that what I had still fit that, but apparently, you know, it is what it is. They were like, they were not interested in the end of the day. But that all was, I did not know the person. I sent them a direct email. It was in the scripted television space, and I did have a completed, but they didn't, all they read was the story Bible. So for that, what I sent them was a story Bible. Yeah. And then?
I was going to say that I had 2 reality shows, and one with one producer, they made the sizzle reel, and then they did the meetings and did the thing to try to sell it. One I'm working with now, they're probably going to do the same thing and make the sizzle reel.
Yeah, it ranges.
And then they're going to go take it to their contacts from there.
Yeah. No, it ranges. Sometimes they will. I think in all of mine, 2 of them were comfortable with me going, and the rest were just like, they got it, you know. So I just let them, like, I don't really care either way. Sure. But it ranges. But all of them except for... I signed a shopping
agreement with one, and the other one I have a shopping agreement with the talent.
Yeah. Of all of them, one of them kept my original sizzle. Yeah, but most of them redid the sizzles. The other one they kept it as is. I think they might have like trimmed some bad cuts I had made because, you know, I was doing it. But like other than that, it was basically the same concept though.
So every time I've done a pitch, I was with a manager. I feel like if you go in without that, you're not protected as far as when the deal actually does go down. When do you involve your manager and your lawyer if you're calling, you know, as a producer?
If I'm just going, yeah. I mean, you know, I haven't.
I add to her question.
Yeah.
Questions added.
Yeah.
And then, further question, how do you know a good deal from a bad deal?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I will say, for if it were to come down for me. Like to come down the wire, like I'll give you the best examples with the FY network, because that's the closest I came to something where, because I have not had a deal. I have not had a network deal ever, right? I've just gotten the options from the production companies. And from those options, they've gone out to the networks to then pitch to get the deals, which we have never gotten. Now, in the example where we came very close, and they were like going to put us on the schedule and programming and everything, we came very, very close with emails like Monday you'll have the contract. In that example, I just had an attorney who was ready to just review the contract, who is very familiar with, like, you know, reality television. It was like a cooking show, so very familiar with that space, and I would have them just simply review it. I mean, at this point, it's basically, I think if something is like on the table, and you know, on the table, pretty much any, for the most part, any legitimate manager will be happy to like do it.
Or entertainment attorney.
Definitely entertainment.
Because if you're
attorney.
going in as a producer.
Yeah, when you're going in, either way. Yeah, either way.
And then on the back end, as far as meeting up with a production company, how does that work? Like, what did you see in you know, how far you got? What did the negotiations look like?
Yeah,
did you still own your IP?
Yeah, so it depends. So it varied. So I would say that the one that I got signed with ICM for, that was like so specific. I had the highest amount of, because basically, okay, let me break down financially. So usually a production, let's just use $500,000. It's like a pilot. Okay, so $500,000, and this is for the unscripted space. So $500,000 for a pilot. A production company's fee, right? Like what a production company gets is 10%, right? So the production company gets 10%, and then of that 10%, they give you a percentage. So in your contract, you already know what you're going to be making before they go on those pitches. You already know what your money is. Okay. And it's pretty standard. You know, you're going to negotiate your title. So in that one, I had co-exec producer credit, and I had, I want to say I had 5 or 4% of that 10. And so that's what my money would have been per episode, would have been the fee. And then there was maybe a step deal. So it was like, if it gets to season 2, if it gets to season 3, it was like that. But it was already, that was what they had given to me.
Did you own your IP, or you had to split it with them?
I don't even know if, honestly, I don't even know if, I mean, I signed that contract in like 2 minutes, so, and it didn't even give out, so, you know, I mean, yeah, I think that if it was, like I said though, I would say if it was something that I was concerned about owning an IP to, like for example, like my kids thing, like I'm real particular about that piece right there, like I created this thing from scratch, got the characters, but that particular thing, I would make sure that I had what I needed in that, you know, and also just communicating, because most of the production companies, I mean, because I'll be very, like, frank, I'll be like, I want executive producer credit, because there's no way you would be able to get this talent, and they'll say to you, listen, like I had a show option that went all the way to headquarters for, with HGTV, right, so I had another show, and they were like, HGTV is not going to give you, like, they're just not going to do it, they don't do it for even whoever, like someone top, they have a very limited amount of spots they give their executive producer credits to, and so you're just not going to get it, period. So we can get you more money, we could, you know what I mean? Right. And so he could be lying to me, I don't know, but I just take him for his word and just be like, okay, cool. And if he's lying to me, I'll learn next time. You know what I mean? That's all I can really do in this situation. And it didn't end up going through. But anyway, those deals do range. I've seen them as low as 2% up to, I think, 5%. And then in terms of like the time for the option agreements, I've seen them, they usually try to start with a year, and I never sign those. I'm always like 6 months or 3. Mm-hmm. Usually now I always say 3. I just don't have to, the 6 months is just too long.
I've signed a year shopping agreement.
Unscripted, but anything. I would never give anyone longer than 6 months. Never.
But for scripted, sometimes their stuff doesn't even get looked at.
They will renew it though. They'll renew it though. Yeah. They'll renew it. 6 months, but it's going to be like an optional 6-month renewal, but usually it'll be at their discretion. Yeah. Typically. Yeah. I mean, you takes time. The stuff does take time. You know, everything does take time. So there's no cookie.
I only say that because I was on the other side. Yeah. I have optioned other people's stuff as a producer. Yeah. And it takes time to contact studios, to contact reps, to get actors involved. It takes them. You got to wait for them to even get to it to read, to get back to you, and months go by. Yeah. You know.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely.
I've signed shopping agreements for a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely traditional, but I'll tell you, like, it doesn't hurt to ask. So, like, you know, and I think they respect that. The one I signed the one with like Authentic, and they were moving. I was like, 6 months. She was like, oh, we won't need 6 months. We're going to do this in 3. Like, they put it on sale. They were like, I mean, next day here's the new sizzle. They were out pitching it like, okay, so-and-so said no. So-and-so said no. Okay, we're got 6 other, they move fast on stuff that's like hot or interesting, people will move fast on them. And if also you give them that, like, hey, and you also kind of have to play it up a little bit, like, you're not their only hope. Like, this company is not your only hope. Like, you maybe had someone interested, or you don't have to lie, but just kind of in the way you communicate. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, you signed this for me. This is so great. Especially once you start doing them, because once I started doing multiple production company deals, and I would have an opportunity where I could take it to this company or this company or this company, and I would say, hey, I want to shop this to you guys first. Mm-hmm. And they would respect that. They would get right back to me in that day. They would watch it and be like, you know what, we like it. We're gonna stand tight. Legal's gonna reach out to you, or you know what, it's not for us. Because they would know, okay, she's serious and it's going to go to somebody. And they rely on it. The other thing is, both for films and television, like, the production companies are relying on us. They're relying on us as creators to bring them stuff. I mean, it's helpful to them. So it's not going to, we had the guy not last week, but I guess last month, what's his name? Matthew Bruce from Paramount?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and so a lot of the stuff that he has coming in, it's coming in from agents and managers, but at the end of the day, it's coming in. It's not like they're not developing it in-house. It's coming in from other places. So they're relying on creatives to supply the content that is then going to get optioned and produced, And they did, was it Boomerang or whatever? Is what we talked a lot about.
TV show.
Yeah, the TV show.
Okay, so, we were talking about TV shows and stuff. So I was thinking, I have this TV show. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, like the next biggest thing. But we were gonna do like a concept. We don't have the money to obviously create a world.
And even if you had it, don't do it.
Yeah. So we're gonna do like a little teaser. And I told them, right now I'm doing a short film, and like my professor, he was telling me, like, you need to get your name in these film festivals. You need to get your name known there, because that's where these agents and managers are, and if they like your stuff, they're gonna be hitting you up. They always tell me, don't go and talk to a manager, don't go talk to an agent, let them come to you, because if they want you, they're gonna come get you. And I was thinking, like, okay, so if I do this concept, and I was debating whether I was gonna either put it on the internet, when people see it, they'd be like, oh my God, it goes viral, put my little watermark on it, but I don't know if that's the right way to go about it, or if I should just take that concept and package it and send it out to like managers or agents, or like you.
Well, I think the film festival route is always useful. Depending on your time, where you are in your career, what your objectives are. I think film festivals can be very, very, very productive. You can meet great people. I've met some amazing people through even small film festivals. Up to I haven't gone to any big film festivals, but I know people who have and form great relationships. I do think that depending on the level of where the film festival is, it's going to determine sort of that agent or manager coming after you, right? How hot that. If it's in Sundance, of course they're going to be coming after you. But if it's in the Nashville Film Festival, maybe not so much. But it might be a great experience. You might definitely meet some really amazing people. You know what I mean? I mean, the person who the production company the distribution company that purchased my feature film is now, hopefully, fingers crossed, getting ready to fund another feature for me that that I want to do. And so again, I'm bringing this up because he goes to all the film festivals. Whether it's like even all the markets too, like AFM and all of those places, he's always looking for, just in general, just like up and coming like acquisitions, like buys, like finished products. So I think if you have a finished product, so that is great, because that's also a calling card for you. I think finished products are great if you can, raise the money, which is we could spend a whole nother 2 hours talking about that. But like raising money to actually create something finished, I mean, I think that is like an ultimate goal. I don't know that I would ever spend the time doing it for a short. Like I would never spend the money, a lot of money on a short. I would say whatever your budget is for that short or that full season of a web series, you probably could shoot a feature film for. Because I used to run our film festival, the Hollywood Divine Film Festival, and I saw a movie that was shot for $500. Again, he had a lot of favors, for people coming in. It was working on the weekends, but it was over the course of a month. and it was $500. He said was the actual cash they put towards it, and it was really, really good. So I think that, you know, if you can find the money and it's easy accessible to you and you can create it, great, go for it. But if not, I don't know that creating a concept though and putting it out to the public to see can work. I mean, the whole viral thing is just, it can work in your favor, it cannot, you know what I mean? Because I think the thing about something is, like, when most things are going viral, I don't know that I've seen a single concept go viral. It's more so like it's tied to like a series of something. So it's kind of like, you know, but I don't study the marketplace enough to know, success stories in that area.
How long do you continue shopping your stuff around? Like, if it's like, okay, I gave you 3 months, I'm about to take it to somebody else, or do you just leave that there? Like,
yeah, I usually leave it there. I think one time, the cooking one, because I came so close to a deal, I was like, oh, I got to get this one. And I asked them, could I have the rights back? Because we had signed like a special agreement thing where it was like, because they were so close to buying it, like they actually owned some part of it for an extended period of time or something. And I mean, they had the right to make it if they decided. And I was just like, no, you already said you aren't going to make it. So like, what is this, you know? And so they did give me, you know, the option to be able to go somewhere else. And so, but nothing ever happened with it anyway, but I did get it able to go. So I think you can, I personally, just my personality, I probably wouldn't keep pushing, or I would, or like I kind of recycle stuff. You know, it's kind of like timing. So like the thing that I just did where I gave you the example how the email where they were like, oh, we're going to be meeting in a couple of weeks to talk about the project that sort of related to my book. That project I had done the sizzle like months ago, right? But it just dawned on me that it could be a good fit for like a way that people like properties that are connected to things. I was like, okay, I have this legitimate book deal, so maybe I can kind of, you know, okay, this is another alternative to it. And so I had already done it, so I'm just recycling. It never got, but that particular project had never gotten optioned anywhere, so I didn't have to like pull it back from anybody. It's just that I had shopped it, people told me no, and then I kind of put it to the side. And then like, oh, okay, so.
And have you found that like in transmedia that he told us that like high concepts are like the thing that you want to like create, high concepts?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think the only time like the small, I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about film or TV, talking about film or TV or unscripted. Yeah, I mean, I think for like film, if you're talking film, absolutely. But I think it's more so if you're talking about completed projects versus like a concept. So if it's something like if you have the full on, listen, if I was able to write like really, really well, like if I was a really strong screenwriter, I would have been sold a project, like a really, when I say that, I mean like a big one where I would make a lot of money. I can face that reality that I'm not a really, really strong screenwriter. Now I can write a script from beginning to end. I can give you story, I can do it fast. You give me 1 week, I can have you a script. It will be, you know, it's not gonna be flawless, but it's gonna be a beginning, a middle, end. It's gonna be conflict, you know what I mean? A certain genre that I like to write in, I can play in that space. So like the production company that's potentially gonna fund the film, they're like, I wrote the script, they're like, oh my gosh, we love it. Okay, but it is not, that script, I can tell you right now, is not gonna be in Sundance. It's not gonna get any kind of award. It's not, you know what I'm saying? So I think that if you are, I think the best case is if you're able to write, you know, if you're a great writer and you're able to write like a really high concept idea, you should write that script and then take that script and try to get an agent and try to get a manager. And, you know, or if you don't have a great high concept idea, but you're a really strong writer and you're writing, even if you're writing something that's like middle America stuff where it's not like necessarily high concept, but you're really, really strong writer, same thing. You need to try to get representation because there's far too often where I've had so many agents read my stuff. I mean, it's shameful, right? So I've had the access to be able to, so I know it can be done, but my writing abilities were not as strong as they were willing to bring me on. And they'll tell you, they'll be like, you know what? You're a good writer, but we need you to do this, or can you do this, or can you write this kind of stuff? Can you lean it more horror? This, and I'm like, I just don't have time for that. I got 3 kids, you understand? I got 3 children. Like, no, I can't do that. I cannot do that. So I have to find my way in with what I have at this moment in my life, you know? So I think you have to kind of do that for your own self, based on your own time, your work responsibilities, whatever it is you have in your life going on. But I think high concept, yes. Write the script, yes. Produce the film if you can, yes. But I just don't think you should go crazy spending money unnecessarily when you don't need to. You do not need to spend unnecessary money.
Okay. all of that right there, I appreciate you, sharing that information with us, definitely. And I just to go along with what you're saying. So my question to you is, when we, let's say we're at that level of where you are, like for example, it's myself and my business partner, we work together, and she has been writing for over the last 20 years now, and we have, strong scripts as far as content and stuff like that, and we've entered into film festivals, and like, for example, one of them, it was a film festival that took place down south, and it had over, I know it was over 1,000 films that was entered into it, and ours made it into the top 20 and then into the top 10. And that was like over a year ago, and it's like we can get so far, and then after that, then with so we came very close with several deals, and then after that, then it's like, well, not at this particular time.
Yeah, but in general,
those are the answers that we get. We still have no representation or anything like that.
Have you tried to get it, representation?
Well, that's that's where I was going with. Okay. I was going to say, what would you say would be the best method now, with where we stand, to be able to get it?
Well, okay, let me back up. So if anyone else gets into that position, that your best case of trying to get anything is when you have something going on, right? So that's why, for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got this book deal. I can't just say, hey, this book deal is such a small thing. I have to figure out what else can I get from it, because when you have such a finite window of when you can take that and elevate it into something else. So when you have, so in the future, just and taking note, if you do win any festivals, that is the moment, that is the time where you've got to go crazy, and you have to get out your LA mind, because like the publisher actually I'm with, they were saying like they like, one of the things about like LA authors in general is that we get so caught up in like LA, the idea of LA is like one of the toughest markets to be successful in, right? But the rest of the world is not really like that in terms of like how they perceive what we're doing. Like what we're doing is so amazing. For me, it's like, oh, it's just one little movie I made 4 years ago, and LA people don't care about that. Like, okay, whatever. But to the rest of the world, they're like, oh my gosh, you raised money, you made a movie. That's a bigger deal,
right? And
so you have to promote that.
And I was gonna say, you know what? And I think for a while I was in that same mindset. And
thinking, it's not that big of a deal.
I got an opportunity to see something totally different, because I attended. Steve Harvey just hosted a conference that was here over the last weekend, and one of the ladies that was there, she wanted to be able to show what I had to the crowd and stuff, and they went crazy or whatever over it. But I mean, at the same time, like I said, I had to get out of that mindset, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's the mindset that most of us stay at, and we don't even sometimes know we're in it, because you have to kind of sometimes be on the outside to see in. You know what I mean? But yeah, so basically, it's really important that you. So for those who might, if you get any opportunity when you get it, you have to promote it, and that means any small thing. So I mean, literally, if someone responds to an email, even if someone gives you an opportunity to pitch anything or you have to use that leverage in your next email, in your next thing, hey, I was speaking to so and so, legitimate, don't lie, but legitimate stuff that you can then build. You have to be able to build from one thing to the next. So in a situation where you are now, even what you just did right now, I mean, even just you're talking about Steve Harvey last weekend, that's enough right there. That's enough to say, okay, to contact 25 literary agents, I have a few more managers, and say, hey, I was at the blah 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 conference, this one top 10, but this last weekend the crowd went crazy at the Steve Harvey blah blah blah. I would love to send it to you. That's something relevant. Steve Harvey's hot. I mean, so that's something relevant and timely. So you can use something as small as that, because people are just looking, and also because it's not so traditional. So if you don't win Sundance, or it's not like the Nichols, or it's not something that's like the known stuff, right? You have to come with something that's just like this out there, that's just left field. You know how we always joke about this, but they're always looking for the big idea, the next big thing, and it's something, they don't even know it when they see it, that kind of thing. Or things like that where it's not directly connected to the industry are things that they might kind of be like, oh, okay, what's this, I mean, because I would say be pitching cereal companies. I mean, really, you gotta think outside the box. If you have a great idea, can you go to Kellogg's with your thing, your Game of Thrones, okay, it's cool, you want to pursue the traditional route, and you'll naturally do that. You're in film schools, you're naturally going to pursue your traditional route. Look up, okay, do they have Game of Thrones cereal? Who has their cereal? Kellogg's. Okay, fine. Who is the Kellogg's executive you can pitch? Go on LinkedIn, figure out who is that person. Send them an email and say, hey, I have a great idea for a cereal. Maybe you come in that way. Or maybe just something comes of that. And I say that again because I've done that. And I've opened I don't have a cereal, but I've definitely made the connection to something, to someone, and it just led to something else, because that's what you're just trying to do.
What do you say we should say, like, because I feel like that I've been like on a cat and mouse chase game with this right here because we've moved on. We have another project that we're finishing up even this week.
And these are scripts or feature films? Like, are they scripts?
These are feature films. Well, these are scripts that we made into short films to enter into film festivals.
Okay, so they're scripts. Okay.
Yeah. But I was going to say, the reason why I say I feel like as if we've been on like a cat and mouse chase game is because when we seek representation, then, they'll say, do you have any, attached talent, to it? So the answer is no right now. And then when you reach out to attached talent, then after that, then they want to know, do you, have
your funding?
There you go. And so, it's like it's back and forth.
I think you have to get clarity on what it is you really want with that project. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have to get clarity on, do you want it to see, because there's so many different paths. There's the path to something getting produced, right? Or there's the path to just getting a writing assignment, just like showing you're a good writer, right? And getting paid to write something because someone knows you're a good writer. There's so many different paths. So if you're so passionate about that and you want to see it made, do you want to be a producer? Do you want to be a producer? I'm asking. You want to produce it? Mm-hmm. So you would like to like raise the money and like produce the movie?
I would like to do that.
Yeah, okay. So if that's something you would really like to do, then that's a whole different trajectory than trying to secure representation. If you want to make a movie, right, you don't really need representation to make a movie. You need to figure out who are those funders, who is going to fund your movie. That is like your number one priority. How, contact people. That's crazy, but contact the guy. What's his name? Robert L. Smith. He just gave all that money to Morehouse Man.
Yes, he did.
You better send him an email. Figure out you better send him an email.
And he produced The Intruders.
I mean, you're a black man. Like I would be like, listen, I wasn't in this class, but let me tell you, listen.
He also produced The Intruders.
I'm just saying, there's so many people. Like, what's her name? What's his name? Not Steven Spielberg, but what's the other guy? Who did all the Star Wars movies?
George Lucas.
Yes, okay. George Lucas, and he's married to Melody Hobson, yes. I believe, right? I've emailed her directly, gotten exchange emails with her, very wealthy. I read it in an article. She was like one of the wealthiest black women in the world. Melody Hobson. She's George
Lucas's wife.
And I was like, who is this woman? Wait a minute. Okay, research, found her email, because she's not in the film business, so it's pretty easy to find. I mean, people like that, because they're just like money people, you know. Found her email, sent her email. She responded. That's all. That's my guess right there. You responded to me, and that's all I really needed.
What did she say?
She responded. She was like, I appreciate you sending your email. And I said, I am an African woman. Da, da, da. She was like, thank you so much for reaching out. I appreciate you. She might have said, continue to push, and just something like inspirational. She was just like, no, she wasn't trying to give me anything. But that's cool. That's cool. You gave me something because you gave me the time.
What did you say to her in the beginning?
I'm an African American woman. I'm trying to fund my feature film, Hollywood Chaos. I'm looking at raising money. If there's any resources that you can help me with or guide me in any direction, I would so appreciate any whatever. Really nice. And I probably try to find something in common with her.
I can't remember. One paragraph that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I might have found something like, no, I'm just saying in general, I was trying to find something in common with the person, so maybe she didn't go to University of Michigan, but I'm just saying, like, I might have said something like, oh, your husband's favorite, my husband loves something, Star Trek, whatever. Yeah. Trying to find some connection just to kind of show I've done my research. And she responded, though, like, that day. So to me, that's everything, because in her busy day, she took the time out to respond to little old me email, and I appreciate it, so I know it's effective. So I didn't get like the money I was looking at, and since then I've continued to keep in touch with her. That's the other thing. Yeah. That's the other thing that's important. So since then I've still never gotten any money, but I still continue to send her updates. Hey, let me tell you what's going on. Oh, I get this, and she responds. Yeah. And so at some point, maybe something will happen. Maybe not. That's cool if it doesn't, because we still had that email. And also a lot of this business is the confidence. She gave me the confidence, which is more than anything. You can't put a price point on that. You give me the confidence that like, okay, I can keep going. Whether or not she gave me the check or anything. I got more from her. So for your situation, if you want to produce, you got to figure out who are those money people. You got to start going after those money people and see if you can get money from money people. I'm trying to think of, and also you don't need a lot of money. Like, don't think you need a lot of money. Like, when I was trying to make Hollywood Chaos, that film that I made, I was thinking I needed like $3 million. I didn't need $3 million to make that movie. If you watch the movie, it's on Amazon. Go buy it. Look at. But it's it's decent. It's okay. It's an okay film, but it's not. I didn't use a lot of money to make it, but I got it done, and that's the most important thing. You get it done. You keep on moving to the next project. Does that help? Yeah.
Have you ever done GoFundMe's, or do you recommend?
Yeah, I did. I didn't do a GoFundMe. That I did a Indiegogo. Same kind of thing. I did do Indiegogo. I raised like I want to say $4,000 on there with that film. And I think I did it again for my PBS documentary. I think I raised maybe like $800 or something with that. Like definitely was under $1,000. I mean, I think that you should try everything because you just never know. Like, so I don't like to discourage people from doing things except for spending money. I do like to discourage people from spending money because I don't think you need to spend money in order to make it. Essentially, in this business, you can definitely you need to spend your time in developing ideas and being creative and finding and researching who the buyers are, but you don't need to spend a lot of money. So I would say that I would try it. I think the thing with crowdfunding campaigns is because social media is so overwhelming and everybody's doing it, and now people go fund for travel, I give to so many people, like they send me emails and campaigns for just everything. I don't even know what I'm giving to. I mean, it's just, there's so much stuff that people are doing these days. Other day someone sent me GoFundMe for their kids' soccer team. It's a lot. So I think that they can be useful. I think you have to have a really specific strategy in marketing your GoFundMe or Indiegogo or any of those. You have to really think about how you're going to market that and what's the driving force to someone to donate so that you can make, your money from that. Because I think I have an email list of, about 10,000 people. And so even in that, I was like, oh, I got all these people, they're coming to these events. Like, I should be able to raise, $4,000, that's so small, relative to like, who the email is. But definitely the people who contributed were like true supporters and mentors and people who really, like wanted to be a part of something, and it was my first film. So yeah, and I think you can also look, so I think GoFundMe, it can be useful. I would say I also got about $65,000 in-kind donations, so I think that's another avenue that can be often overlooked.
In-kind?
Yeah, so basically someone might have given me like, we're going to do your catering all, for free on Monday and Tuesday. So it's like, okay, that's done. We're going to do, like we had a scene where we had a red carpet and we needed the poles and everything to look like a red carpet premiere, and they donated like all the step and repeat and all that stuff, So there's a way where you can just get, money that you don't actually have to spend, but still be able to, do what you need to get done, but you don't have to come out of all of that money to get it done. Yeah.
We go back to something that you mentioned earlier, and this is going back to the serial conversation about finding the person that they're coming. So, say you had some kind of show that you wanted to do, and you saw a tie into like an educational company, right? Like let's say like a McGraw-Hill or Pearson or something like that. What would be your strategy to find the person to whom you would pitch to say, get funding? So like in TV, like we know, okay, we find something.
Yeah, it's tough for all of those random companies. You just got to start. Like, just try like marketing, brand partnerships. Start there. Just start with those titles, brand partnerships, sponsorships. But it's basically like in the marketing division. It's not going to be like a content creation. It's definitely going to be an untraditional person that is dealing in that space, but you can start there and just say, are you the right person? I wouldn't pitch them the idea. I would just be like, hey, I have an idea for a serial. Is there a protocol? And sometimes they'll just like guide you to your website, and even that's helpful, because it's not like you sometimes you can't Google everything, but sometimes you cannot literally get the link, that you need exactly where to go. Like Hasbro, right? Hasbro, you can pitch toys to. Most people don't know you can just go on and pitch a toy, but it's not like exactly obvious, like where to go on their website, how to find out exactly. But someone can just give you the link of where you need to pitch to, can be very helpful. So it might be an existing infrastructure that they have already that you can, submit your ideas to. So I would just say looking for like marketing and brand partnerships or sponsorships, and start there and see if they can guide you to someone who might be able to help you.
Usually that would be on the Contact Us tab, because then they would have like, contact us for, we have all the different departments, whether it's for, customer service, brand partnerships, public relations, press inquiries, all that kind of stuff. And they would have like, brand partnerships.
Yeah. And I use LinkedIn a lot for stuff like that. Yeah, I just will Google brand partnerships, marketing. Like I was trying to get something with like a sponsorship for something, and just kind of went that route. For looking for people's titles, and then message them, and some won't respond, but I'd say like 50-50, most will, because those people aren't getting hit up. It's the people that like Netflix and Warner Brothers and Lionsgate, they're getting hit up on LinkedIn constantly. you know, constantly. But nobody at Kellogg is getting hit up by us. Trust me. It's just not. We all think in the box, unfortunately, until we were reminded that we have to think outside the box. And you don't always have to do that, but you have to do that. At least for me, I'm gonna speak to me. I had to start doing more of that when I realized that, okay, here I am, you know, 15 years later, and you have a vision for where you're trying to go. It's like, there's only so much time left, my friend Angela. You don't have all day. But if you have a little bit more time, you know, you're in school, you can attack it a little bit differently. When you get to a certain place, like maybe perhaps you and I, we have to really think outside of how to connect to other people. And also because those people are so much more welcoming. Those people are so much more welcoming than Hollywood. And so you're able to kind of get a little bit more. Sometimes they give you contacts. I had one person that was like in a marketing department had given me, was like, oh, do you have an agent? Because my brother-in-law is an agent at UTA. I don't know if that could be helpful to you. She didn't even know like what an agent is, you know what I mean? And I'm like, sure, give me his information. You know, we made a contact, and I'm like, he might come speak. You know what I mean? So those people are just nicer, and nobody from Lionsgate be like, oh, do you have, you know, an agent? Let me refer you to. No. That's not gonna happen. It's just rare. You and then you. Yeah.
No.
Did you have a question? Oh no. Oh, you had one. Okay.
Oh, well, I was gonna say.
Oh yeah, you had one too. Yeah.
I was gonna just make an aside that it's good to talk to everybody wherever you are, whether you're in a Starbucks or Coffee Bean or whatever. To have your headset in or be closed off. The more people I speak with, the more people I meet, even in LA. I've made a lot of contacts because I've ended up talking to people, find out what they did or who they're connected to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
super
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's totally true. I remember I was running on a treadmill next to Kevin Hart one day. He was hilarious. So talkative. You had a question.
Well, one, when you used the term earlier, story Bible, for one of your projects, what did you mean by that?
So a story Bible would be you would have
your pitching materials?
Yeah, it's basically pitching materials. So you'd have your synopsis. I'll focus on like, you can have, you know, I'll focus on television because that's probably the most popular use of a story Bible, but you can use a story Bible for almost anything. But story Bible for a television episode would have your synopses, you know, your brief log line, maybe even a tagline, maybe like a marketing, some kind of key art, graphics.
Themes.
Themes. It would have maybe some pictures you've, you know, identified your characters, like breaking down maybe like your top 6 characters, the descriptions of them. If it's like for me in the kid space, I had to, you know, I had like animation, so it's like showing the visual of what the kid looks like and any of his little, you know, special powers or whatever, what that is. And then at the end, you would either, I mean, every writer does it different. I'm all about less is better. So like it would just be like a list of like potential ideas for like seasons. It wouldn't even be like an arc of anything, but it would just be like, here's some ideas of things that, you know, could happen in season 1, 2, 3. And so that's basically a story Bible.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it's basically a pitch document though.
Thank you. And then the second question is, if you have a project and you want to work on that project in the capacity of a producer, and you're approaching production companies to offer them, to make them aware of your project, do you
for film or TV or
for film, for example?
Okay, for film.
Do you also contact financiers and try to collect, raise money for that film? And when companies hear that you have raised money for your project, is that a plus, or do you keep things separate? I don't know.
Well, why are you needing them? What are you wanting the production company for? If you're raising the money, what is it you want the production company to do? Raise more money?
Well, that's where I need clarity.
Okay.
I mean, the other or both, or
I think if you're,
attractive,
I mean, it depends on how big. So, I mean, there's like finishing funds. I mean, so if you, let's say you raised $1 million and you really wanted to raise another, first of all, if you raised $1 million,
you don't need no
call me. Okay, listen. I'll show you how to make 5 movies for your million that will make you money. But anyway, okay, so if you raise $1 million and then you want to have like you want to raise another $1 million too for your finishing funds, you know, and you want to partner with the company, I think it's acceptable. I think it's fine. I get actually a lot of emails from companies who've offered to finish fund my movie. They're like, if you have a movie, you know, we saw your movie Hollywood Chaos, that it's airing on Urban. We don't know if you're working on something else, but if you are, we'll be willing to put up this amount of money to finish your film. I'm like, finish my film. give me the start money to do the film. What is this? Finish the film business. And I forwarded to like some other people who I know are working on something. I'm like, maybe y'all can use this. I don't have any. And they were like, oh, we're actually working with them. Yeah, because they had already had their big chunk of money and they were finishing the movie for them. So I think in those examples, you know, there's like finishing fund companies that like once you already got the ball rolling, you need to like, you know, whatever the money for marketing or whatever, finishing funds, whatever capacity editing or something like that, you know. So, but I don't think it's a negative. I think if you have money coming in, I don't think anyone sees it as a negative. But I do think you don't need another production company if you can do it yourself. I mean, if you raise the money, it's not going to hurt.
So if you have an idea, go to the production company and try to get them involved to, you know.
Yeah, I would start there just because.
Never went that route.
I would never.
I never even thought of it.
I would say it's probably most productive just because you don't have to spend the time. Cause I mean, and it may not work. If it doesn't work, then you might have to raise the money, right? Okay. So, because that's what happened. That's what drew me to make my movie. I did not come out here when I was first moving here to California, and I had that script in the backseat. At the time, I had a 1994 Geo Tracker, and I drove here cross country from Chicago to here by myself. 36 hours, but anyway, and so when I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna get this movie made. I wasn't thinking I was gonna be the one to make it. I wasn't even trying to make the movie. I was like, I just wrote this, and like I want to see the movie on the screen. I didn't really know anything. I went to school for engineering, so all of this was just whatever. And so I mean, not whatever. I just didn't have any idea. So in that process of realizing, I had knocked on multiple doors. I had meetings with like everybody from like. The guy, is it Bob Johnson who owned BT? Yeah. So one of his executives, you know, I met multiple executives actually from there in different capacities. And, you know, they had read the script. They were like, oh, we like the script. We want to, you know, bring you in for a meeting. They're like, okay, well, we're not really making movies right now. We're doing more TV or whatever kind of stuff. And, you know, I kind of kept those relationships going. And they did turn into other things for me. But, I was trying very hard to get the movie made. Like I was taking that finished film to production companies, not to production companies. I wasn't taking to production companies, which is what I recommend. I was taking it directly to networks mainly, or like big production companies. So like, you know, a big studio like Lionsgate or whatever. Lionsgate, actually, for example, I had a guy who read Hollywood Chaos there, who was in distribution, and he was like, you know, I love the script. He was like, listen, if you find what was it? He said, we would distribute the movie. He's like, we would distribute this movie, and I can give you a letter that we would do this if you found the money. And I'm like, okay, this is great, but like, why can't, like, I don't get this. Like, how do I find the money? So then I had to kind of like, okay, I can have this letter, but like, what do I do with that? And like, I just didn't know. Now I know you can go to a bank with that. And I'm like, why didn't he tell me? Like, what? Like, I don't even understand. But anyway.
Are they still doing that?
They do.
Can you get me one of those?
Right. No. I think they do still do that. I think it's not as common. Yeah. I think it's not as common because.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is because that's the same thing that I was told from Comerica Bank. I met with someone there, and he was stating to me that we would do this right here if you could.
You got the
If you, but he said it backwards as far as the entertainment.
Yeah. So what they mainly do now mostly is like pre-sales. So usually that's like the more common thing. So basically, if you're trying to like fundraise for like this, let's say this Christmas movie, right? I'm trying to do. It's like, okay, if he can get pre-sales for the movie, he's like, okay, I got $500,000 locked in these markets, then I can give you, Angela, I'll give you X amount of dollars because I know for sure I'm going to make $400,000. If I give you $100,000, then I'm going to make. So I think it happens more so in pre-sales than anything. But I do think there are some examples where people would give a distribution agreement letter, you know, based on relationships. It's always based on relationships, things like that. But I definitely think those things still do exist today. So yeah, I think definitely though. I think it's important to decide though if you want to actually raise the money because that's just like a whole different path. But the reason why I ended up raising the money is because I got so frustrated with knocking down doors. Yeah. I had just gone to too many people. I met too many people, and then I started to meet the actors, and like because I was doing casting, and they were like, "I'll be in your movie," and it sort of happened. It was like, "Oh, okay." So I can get Then I realized because I was being hired as a casting director to like attach talent. So I was being paid like $5,000, right? And I would like attach name talent, William Morris, different people to projects, but then the projects would never go through because the producers couldn't find the money. So even with solid talent attached, they weren't able to get their films funded because they didn't really know who the funders were. They didn't really have access to the funding. Just remember, talent will always come. Talent, for the most part, will always come. And so you have to make that decision if you're trying to be a producer, a writer, a director, like what in that are you really trying to do? For me, at the time, I thought I just wanted to be a writer. And then I basically fell into producing because I couldn't get it on air. So I was like, I need this movie made. And then luck or whatever, God, whatever made it an open door. And then I was able to make that movie and then, you know, made another one. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm off on a directing path. Why? I'm not even like, what's going on here, you know? But you just have to be open to the opportunities as they come and just kind of, you know, go.
So I just learned today from my teacher that they give state incentives. So
Yes.
like if you like Atlanta will give you like 30% funding for like $1 million.
They're trying to take
So
that now though.
Yeah, but they still do it. Yeah.
So
pretty much every city
I don't
does
know
it.
anything about that. I wanted to get like more information, but she says it's better if you have like $1 million movie or more. They'll give you, you know, the 30% to start it.
Right, yeah, you definitely need, you want to?
I was just going to say, all the things you guys are talking about is just producing that you can learn from producers workshops. Like they have a lot of workshops around town for producing. And you can probably get some of it online, like Alex Ferrari from, what's the name of it, film, I gotta Google and find out the name of it. But his whole thing is all about teaching you how to produce. You got a script, how do you get it made? You gotta get talent attached, you gotta get money attached, you gotta, you know, get state incentives or whatever, you know. So it's like all these different pieces of a puzzle you gotta put together. And the whole idea is that most people who write or create stuff, they won't get it made unless they do some of that heavy lifting. And even like I go to the PGA, the Producers Guild of America, produced by a conference every year. I'll be going back again in June. And the producers on the panel are people who work at the studio level. And they're talking about how it took them 8 years sometimes to make these projects and how they got to get the right actor attached and then they got to raise the money, but then the actor's schedule changes, so that person drops out, so the deal closes, then they got to get a new director. And it's like a whole thing where you got to juggle all these pieces. But that's what producing is. I mean, there's books you can get on producing, and it'll explain the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a whole different,
And then AFM, American Film Market in Santa Monica, like November 2nd through the 10th, it's like a week. They have workshops. You go there, I mean, you'll learn, you know, because it's a lot to learn. But at the same time, even Martin Scorsese says, whenever he wants to make a movie, he spends maybe 10% of his time making the movie and the other 90% of his time and energy trying to get the money.
I was just going to say, that's
put the whole thing together just so he can make the movie. So that's why people produce, because otherwise nothing will happen with your stuff.
Yeah, because the incentives, there are incentives in pretty much every state, every country. I mean, not every, but you know, there's a lot of incentives. But I think that with the incentives, it still comes back to you need to have the money. I mean, you need to have some chunk of the money. Because I know actually a friend of a friend at an agent at William Morris was wondering how come I didn't. He's like, how come you didn't shoot your movie in Atlanta? You know, you have so many people there, like so many contacts. You know, you would have gotten all these incentives, and I'm like, why? I shot it in 7 days in LA. This is my home. Why do I need to go to Atlanta to shoot it? Like, no.
Atlanta is
like,
not Hollywood.
What much more would I have gotten? So like, it's possible, but I think if you're in it, you know, if you're in Atlanta and it, you know what I mean? You know, and a lot of it is just your own gut to kind of do what you, you know, what you say. So like, hopefully when you come to an event like this or any event, hopefully like one or two things just pop. And this, because that's all it takes is one little direction of something, and then you can go off on that, and then it might open up another door. It may not be the door, but it might open up a door to get to where you're ultimately, you know, are trying to be. But definitely getting clarity on if you want to be a writer, because a writing path in general, I would say is probably the easiest path to take. It is very difficult. But if you can just stay focused and not be creating, not be producing, not, you know, off, you know, doing anything else, I think if you just stay in a path of just writing itself, that's probably, you know, when it comes to writing, you know, producing, it's probably the easiest. They're all hard. It's not easy, but it's probably one of the more easier ones. There is a path. There's a path to it, you know. The other one, you typically need money. But you don't need money when it comes to writing. You need to be able to write very well, you know, in order to make it. But with the other, when it comes to directing, you need who's gonna hire you to direct your stuff. You gotta direct your own stuff. Then you gotta fund that, you know. When you're producing, you gotta have money to produce, you know. So all the other things come money. Now, if you have a lot of money or you have resources for money, then that opens up another door. So then maybe producing can be an easier route if you can flow or be very resourceful with money, or figuring out, you know, getting a lot of handouts, or, you know, or whatever you can to kind of create, you know, projects and getting them going. Then that could be, you know, another tool, like through the film festivals and stuff like that.
Okay, the site. I was just gonna say the site is Indie Film Hustle.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
IndieFilmHustle.com.
That's a good one.
Indie Film Hustle. You can learn all that stuff there.
If we have a, let's say for example, you were an investor that was going to, you know, invest into someone's film or something like that. We'll just say $1 million. What would you say the percentages that we should tell them that, you know, that they're going to get a return back on, you know, return on investment?
I would say that's a really Google question.
Really?
No, yeah, seriously. Like, just look up like film business plans. I think that's how I found mine. I mean, because off the top of my head, I can't remember. I didn't know if it was like 10%. I can't remember. It's definitely, I think I created it as a step deal. I mean, it's like if it makes this much, you get this much. It wasn't just like a flat percentage. It was like, if it makes this much. I mean, that's just what I did.
Like,
you know what, though, to be honest, and I had shared this in another event, but I'm going to say again, just because I think it's important. When I was first doing the Hollywood Chaos, and I'm going to get your question too. When I was first doing the Hollywood Chaos film, you know, when I wanted to make it for $3 million, I was creating like a 20, 30 page, you know, business plan. Where I showed it, right? I was creating a 30-page business plan to try to get my movie funded. And that wasn't the thing that got it funded. What got it funded was a 4-page document. Was it like, I think it was 4 pages. And it was real simple, because the money people, to be honest, first of all, money, when people tell you they need to see talent attached, it's a bunch of baloney. And when I say that, I mean, they're not, my personal experience, don't think they're really going to fund it. I don't think they're really going to fund you if they say they need to have someone attached. Because after a conversation with them, you should be able to say, listen, actors will work. You can pretty much promise any reasonable actor, you know, for a reasonable fee, you know. If you look at the movie Intruder, right, that's out right now.
That's Robert F.
Tia Taylor, right? Yeah, so if you look at that movie, like, that movie wasn't they didn't spend a lot of money on that movie. Megan Good's in it. I'm sure she definitely made less than what she usually makes. She
got
said
back
that.
point. She got the
said
back
that,
end.
right? She got back end point. She made less money. You can basically get, you know, not any actor, but you can get really great actors who can get you distribution. Let me put it like that. Recognizable faces that can get you distribution. You can get that talent if you actually get it done. If you actually can get the money in the beginning. So I don't think the whole idea of, like, and I've seen too many examples of people where they get the talent attached with these letters, LOIs, and then they can't get it funded. So, like, I personally would never waste a day attaching talent. Now, the only time I say maybe you could waste a couple days is if you just feel like, you know, nothing is happening and you just need movement. You need to be doing something, so you stay sane, so you don't lose your mind. Okay, then get those LOIs. Then, like, start, because you need to start doing. You don't just feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. You need to start doing something. But I just feel like there's so many other things that you potentially could be doing, like getting some subscriptions to some really, you know, money magazines. Like, do you know, like, who, like, you should know who are the top 10, whatever your ethnicity is, people, top 10 wealthiest people. That's not a star. I'm talking about, like, celebrities. Like, who are those people? And if you don't know them, but you're wanting to know money, you want to find money, then that's not, you know what I'm saying? So you have to, if you want the money, you got to focus on the money. That's a whole nother career, not path, but it's a whole trajectory. Like Bruce said, people are taking years, 8 years. We have the producer from, what's her name, who did,
Huh? The producer headed for Best of Enemies?
Yes, I cannot remember anybody's name right now. Taraji P. Henson's movie, yes. Best Enemies, right? She said it took her some years, whatever it was, you know, to get that movie funded. You know, it's like once it came, they got the check, and it happened, and it moves. So funding is definitely, you know, a whole different ball game. If you want to focus on it, just understand how long it's going to take. So it depends on, you know, the career trajectory that you visualize for yourself, just making sure you keep that very realistic and that you can go after those very specific, you know, goals. What was your question?
I just wanted to ask you real quick, because I had that out, how I can become a member. I'm just like a member.
Oh, yes. Yeah, member at Breaking Hollywood. So basically students, so our regular membership is $500 for the year. And you come to all of our events for free. And then for students, it's only $75, which is great. And so basically on our website, I'll make sure either what did I say I was going to send you to? I was going to send you guys something. Oh, yeah. Okay, let me mark, because I will forget. Let me mark this real quick. So Sizzle for Rip-O-Matic. I'll also try to pull for you splits for investors, just like a copy paste for you, so you can see like what I offered. But yeah, we'll send you a link on joining.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
As far as the LOIs, is it? I know probably unconventional, but if a person, say I were to obtain the rights to a book, and I'm in the process of trying to or courting production companies to see if they're interested, is it realistic to also consider at this point seeing if there's an actor or actress that would be of note that would be interested in attaching themselves just by sending them the book without the script yet even written?
I mean, I don't think any of that's gonna hurt. You know what I mean? Like, especially like if you want to be a producer, then like that's producing. That's what the process is. Whether it's long or not, like that is the process that it's gonna take to basically, send the book.
Entice the production company to say, oh, okay.
I mean, it could. I think it depends. It probably depends on the production. There's so many variables, right? So it depends on the production company. Then it depends on who the talent is, how attached they are, Because a lot of times with attachments, like the funny thing with attachments is if you do have like a director or DP or some interesting people attached to your project, and they, like one of the common questions people ask is, well, how come they aren't taking it to their reps? If they're attached, if they like it so much. I mean, if you have an actor who's directed William Morris, why isn't William Morris making it? I mean, why not making it? Because they don't necessarily make movies. Well, they do, but but like, how come they aren't, connecting the dots for you? Because they have packaging departments within all of these. They even have indie. They have big packaging departments for all the agencies, but they also have like independent indie packaging departments within. So they package much smaller independent movies. So if you're talking, under $1 million, and they could potentially package it and they're not, then okay, now some of that isn't always organic, because there's like the packaging agent is a totally separate person. That's perhaps maybe another idea. Maybe less people also approach packaging agents in terms of query, because it's like they're not as obvious out there. You kind of have to do your research, and a lot of the packaging agents, you could find them through like Bruce mentioned, like American Film Market. You could definitely kind of find them there. LinkedIn, you could definitely find some packaging agents, and if you Google like film or TV packaging agents, you might be able to find some. That might be another alternative to be able to. They're probably getting less queries because people are less. First of all, people don't know what packaging really is. I mean, we know, but we kind of don't really know like what they do. So you might be able to get more, just something else. Than a traditional reaching out to like literary agents, or managers or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so say I shoot my whole movie, I have it all done. Like, what do I do now? Do I take it to a network and show my whole movie to them, or do I still like put together a pitch my idea to them?
So if you had a finished film, you can either go the festival route to try to get buzz. I'm for that, and I'm kind of not for it. I'm for it in terms of if you feel like you need like relationships, you want to build more relationships with people. I think the film festival is a great way. If what you have is really, really amazing, then I definitely think putting it into film festivals is good. But if what you have is a finished film and it's like, listen, when I say, how you see stuff on Netflix, you're like, it's kind of low budget, but it's still good. It's like still good or interesting or entertaining, right? And you feel like it could be like Netflix, take it to Netflix. Contact Ian Brick at Netflix, who acquires the Netflix movies, and see if you take it. Say, hey, I have a finished. Here's a trailer. And he'll look at the trailer, because when you're pitching a finished film, nobody's caring about your copyrights. Nobody gonna ask you to sign anything. Your stuff is done. It's locked. It's a product. So pretty much almost any network. I mean, I've had like any network, not any, but probably like about 15 really solid networks look at my film from me just contacting, not even before I was before I had distribution, who had looked at the film or whatever. Either they gave me feedback on it, or I was trying to get a deal, it just wasn't for their demographic or whatever. So you can definitely contact the acquisitions department and send them a trailer. So what you need for that is just your trailer. That's it. You just need your trailer of your finished film, and you can try to pitch that trailer, you know, and maybe you would have like a 1-sheet document just to kind of explain, because sometimes they don't always like to watch the whole film. You know, they usually watch the first 20 minutes, and then, you know, they'll tell you, yeah, we saw the first 20 minutes, and that's why make sure your first 20 minutes is good. Don't try to say the stuff to the end. Do some flashbacks or something. Even though I used to tell you that in film school, don't do flashbacks. No, do some flashbacks, because if your glitz stuff is up front, it might work out better, you know, depending on the project. But yeah. Any other questions, comments, anything we did?
For what projects were you able to receive advances for?
So those were
How does that work?
Yeah, that was for completed feature. Yeah, so both my completed feature films. So the narrative feature film, which was Hollywood Chaos, and then for the PBS feature film.
The documentary?
Yeah, the documentary. So it was a feature. And that was just literally, that was like a talking head documentary. That was one of those things I shot it in one day. We edited over maybe a 3-week period. Probably would have been 2 weeks, but I think the guy who was editing it, he had some issues or something with you know, roommates or something, whatever. And we, yeah, and then I think the budget was, I don't even remember, but it was cheap. I'll say that it was cheap. It was that because it was basically talking heads. I had seen another documentary like it, and I was like, gosh, this is so simple. Black backdrop the whole time, talking head. And I was like, but the only way you could do that to hold the attention is if the subject is kind of good. So I was like, well, you know, sexual harassment, that's kind of juicy, and you know, you're talking about all kinds of crazy stuff that's going on. So it was, you know, it's sustainable. It holds, I think, you know, it's 60 minutes, so it holds attention enough to kind of, you know, get in some audience. And the thing about the documentary, the thing about the documentary, this is how you get more money for other things. So what happens is, like, yeah, I sold the film, okay, I didn't make a lot of money from that, like not even no money. I mean, because of what I had put, you know. But so what comes from doing a documentary is just building your name and your credibility, right? So I got like maybe speaking engagements, things like that, where people will be willing to like pay you to come sit on a panel about women's rights. I mean, depending on what your documentary is, if you're doing like a human rights documentary, you know, or something like that, or whatever. I mean, it could be anything. And now there's just other opportunities. I would look into like creating a book, you know, from the documentary. I mean, just you have to look at every single product, a video game,
transmedia,
you know, anything. You gotta look at anything you can create so that you can try to get some more money. I'm all about money, guys.
And when it comes down, like, well, when you just stated the books and stuff like that, like, let's say, you know, we have a book that we're going to produce or, you know, write and everything. What would you say would be the best way, I guess, of getting that representation? And who would you say would,
so you need, in order to, if your book is nonfiction, which is what my book is, Create Your Yes, then you don't need to finish the book. You just need to have a book proposal. Yeah. So about 99% of all nonfiction books are sold off of book proposals. So if it's, you know, eating healthy or, you know, like whatever, any nonfiction book is sold off of, everything. All sold off of a book proposal. And I mean sold. So what I mean is, when I turned in that proposal, once the publishing company said, we go, you get a check, you know, and then you go write. So, but for fiction, you have to have it completely finished. There's some small exceptions. If you were like, you know, can't remember names exactly, then yeah, maybe I'm gonna finish the book. But pretty much, even really high up.
But
fiction.
I mean, do you have any, publishing companies that you would, you know, suggest?
No, because it just depends on your subject matter. That's gonna depend on what
like your self-help.
Depends on what kind of self-help.
Okay.
What kind of self-help? Is it for men self-help, women self-help, business self-help? You know, I mean, that's a wide range. What I would say is, if you're interested in that, there are definitely some great books on Amazon, like the I don't know the names, but it's like the Writer's Market or something, like the Writer's, but look at the new version of it. Definitely I think the thing that helped me most was getting a subscription to the Writer magazine. That was probably the most helpful. It's like $20. I'm really big on subscriptions to magazines.
Why was that so helpful, the Writers magazine?
Because they really, because, you know, again, there's only so much time in a day. So a lot of times as a mom, like, I don't have time to like sit with a thick book and just, so it's like, I'm on the go in doctor's office. I just take my issue, that issue, and I'm like, okay, flip it through while I'm waiting the kids pick them up from school or whatever. So for my time, it was just like a small enough thing, and would help me. The issue might be like nonfiction. self-help, getting an agent. I would just follow whatever they set up as the track record for this issue. Then I would be like, that's what I'm rolling with. Like, that's my focus for this month, is what this issue is focused on. And then I would just utilize pull those pages out and start contacting different people, or just trying to. They provide a lot of resources too, like how Bruce mentioned, a bunch of websites and stuff. It's like you didn't have to research it. It's like they list, here are 30 websites where you could get proof editors or whatever you're looking for. Yeah. You get those resources, right? So I would, even as one of the very few magazines I actually would keep after the issue, I read it. I'm like, I'm keeping it because it's a good resource for later. Even after, I'm like, ooh, after I sell my book, I need to go back to this because it mentions something about whatever. So I would say that's probably the easiest, because they'll cover how to write a book proposal. I mean, there's books on that, how to write a book proposal. I can tell you in the nonfiction space, books are basically the most important thing probably in the nonfiction self-help is your platform. That's just what they always talk about, which is just like, how many social media followers do you have, or what's the building blocks? Like if it did come from a film, is it, like if it came from a documentary, let's say, that would be a great, even if you may not have a huge platform, it came from another product, so they have something else to market sort of with it. Mine was based off of a TEDx talk, which didn't have a lot of views. It was like 2,800 views, which is so small. Yeah. But they're still able to use that talk and kind of market it to, to say, okay, and so it's another marketing tool.
So you wouldn't suggest a literary agent?
No. You can contact publishing companies directly, just like you can contact film and TV execs directly. I did have an agent, though, when I got my book deal. I have had interactions, though, with publishers before I had an agent. But I did find that even my agent, he was like, I love you, because I would send him, like, okay, I would research publishing companies for him, because I know I'm not his only client, so I would research publishing companies for him for the book and be like, I think these are like the top 5, and then he's like, I love you, because I'm giving him some information. But at the same time, those weren't the people who bought it. I mean, the person who bought it, the people who bought the deal were somebody who he had met at a writers conference, and he knew the editor and so forth and knew what they were looking for. Yeah. So a lot of it is like, I can research all day long, but when you have an agent, he goes. That's another thing, when you're looking to sign with an agent or manager, try to find people who are out there networking. You do not want an agent or manager who's just like, not out there. Okay. Because every time he's like, oh, I'm going to be out of town this weekend because I'm at the Writers Market Conference. And some people are like, oh, some people might feel like, oh, their agent's always traveling. No, that's great for agents traveling, because they're meeting people. They're meeting contacts. That's how they get to meet publishers, or how they meet, different execs on the film and TV side, how they can meet people. So if you're looking to sign with people, you figure out, ask them, if you get an opportunity to have a meeting with an agent or manager, say, what's the last event you've attended that you don't say it like you're trying to put them on blast. What's the last? But it's more like, what's the last event you attended that's been really helpful? Did you if they're like, oh, I don't really go to events much because I have 3 kids or whatever. It's like, oh no. You might decide to move on because that might not be the best person for you. I know that's the water, that little crickling noise. You're like, what's over there? These gremlins.
Nothing to come out.
That's the ice. It's the ice cracking. What is?
So what's happening in June? What are we? Who's coming in June?
So in June will be Warner Brothers executive, and then a literary manager.
And how do we go about that process? We come into this room.
Yeah, it'll be you'll get our email. So you should definitely be on our emails by now. Cause I feel like you are. Okay, yeah. So you'll get an email. Yeah, we'll email you about our next events, and
can our school email us too as well?
Yeah, I think Rachel, because Rachel always will email you, because what we do for our film students, we make sure that you guys have a great discount, so that way you can hopefully, because I know it's like, please, $500 is hard for me, for anybody, period. But the reason why we do that is because we're just trying to keep people serious, about it. And I think that it's great that when you have people who are serious about their careers, who are willing to invest in it, you understand that is an important aspect of your own career. So you need to be willing to do that. So you will stay focused, you will come to events, and not just events that don't always come to the ones where you feel like there's a direct link. Because remember that my first $25,000 writing assignment was from someone in the music business, So just as much as you can, just soak up all the information, because you never know. One little tip you might hear about, whatever, and boom, that might be the thing that, lands you something.
So we'll come and we'll pitch it to them, actually?
No, there's no pitching. No, it's not a pitching. Sorry, it's not a pitching. It's just it's just a Q&A with the executive who hears
pitches.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So it would be able to kind of give you insight into their Warner Brothers Writers Workshop. So I think it's basically skewed towards television writing. Is what the event will probably kind of market it as. Mainly for television writers, which is really hot right now. So if you're trying to get in, that's the way to go. Television writing.
What type of shows would you say is really going? Would you say reality TV shows are making it beyond others, or it's not really any? I mean, all of them are. Hot.
I don't know. I don't study the market enough, so I get my own personal. I always be like, no, but that'd be out of my head. So that's just false to just give you information. Like I know.
Yeah.
One
camera.
Yeah. You said what?
One camera.
Oh,
like 30-minute one cameras.
Yeah,
they're still like in that genre.
Yeah,
The Office and
yeah. I don't know. I don't really know what's. I feel like reality though is somewhat on a decline. You know, I get a lot of the you know, when I'm looking at like some of the breakdowns and stuff of like what people are being cast for and what they're looking for, I definitely think it's a lot of television. It's a lot of digital too. A lot of digital shows are being scripted. A lot of digital shows are, you know, scripted programming are being are happening right now. So there's a lot of opportunity there. It's harder to get, but there's definitely a lot of opportunity that is becoming available. So definitely look, you know, and also some people don't realize like the networks, like, you know, research all the digital networks, you know, like for me, I focus on a certain brand because of what I'm doing, but like, you know, Awesomeness TV and a lot of these digital networks have email lists, you know, and stay on top of the different people's email lists because they mention just like unique little incubators and things where they're bringing on small groups of people where they're not marketing it to the masses. They're not sending out a huge press release about it because they don't want to have like thousands of people submitting.
Wait, I don't get what you're saying.
So basically, if you look at like some of the production companies and digital television networks, right, the smaller ones, getting on their email list for their company, like their company email list. So let's say, and they all have them. Like if you get on Warner, make sure you're on Warner Brothers email list. Let's say, for example, right? Because when they release like whatever their programs are or whatever things they have that are lined up, not so much with Warner Brothers because they're huge, but the smaller companies, they have a lot of incubators, a lot of programs where they might take like 5 people, 10 people, writers, producers in, but they don't publicly announce it. I mean, it's public.
They'll just go on that email list and say, we're looking for.
They just post it on their own personal company email list. And so
how do you get on their email list?
No, you just join. Just like you go to the like Awestruck TV website, you know, and just join their email list. So you'll get their personal company emails, right?
I did not know
when you get the company emails, some of the programs they have that are small, not the big ones that are being announced everywhere, that you can kind of get something before other people or just, you know, just be aware of it. Maybe it's not even for you, but maybe it's for someone else, you know. So I definitely encourage, you know, that as well. And then also follow Bruce B. Gordon on Facebook and also LinkedIn because he posts so much about like so many different, like, I'm not joking, like so many different programs and just opportunities and things like that. Yeah, for sure. He's the best.
I gotta follow you right out this door.
Bruce B. Gordon on Facebook or LinkedIn. Yeah, he's on it.
Just a quick question. Earlier you talked about back copying yourself when emailing production companies. Or
back what?
BCC.
Oh, BCC. Yeah.
What was that for? I couldn't.
Oh, so I recently sent out. I shouldn't even be saying this.
Yeah, go ahead.
But so no, I sent out because I just have my little frustrating moments, like we all do. And I'm just like, I'm not sending like 75 people an email, and I just don't have the time today. No, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna BCC these people, and I'm just gonna be like, hey, and I'm just going in with my ask. And so it was like 75 people on the email. I BCC executive, you know, and then pitched a show. And so when I say, yeah, it's BCC, then meaning like just so that they, you know, they see it's just to me, but they know that they're getting it. And, you know, I don't know how many, I mean, I know how many emails I got back. It wasn't a lot, so it was maybe like 8 emails back of that 75, so they're like, what, like 10%? Wow. So it's a very low, you know, in terms of like engagement, you know, from people responding. But nonetheless, like what matters is like I have a very important meeting from that. So that's all that really matters to me is like that, you know? So I don't recommend doing like blind emails to people. I do think you should try. I honestly, if I had the time, I promise I would send them all emails because I have done it multiple times when I didn't have 3 kids. Like I definitely would put it in the energy to do that. But you know, or you yourself, you may not have 3 kids, but you might be working 3 jobs or whatever your situation is where you don't have time. And if that's the case, then yeah, you might have to do some BCC too. You know what I mean? Just because you know there's only so much time in a day. But you know, and I wouldn't do that continually. But I just think also I'm all about like just darts. Like sometimes you just gotta just throw darts out there. What's her name? Gloria Calderon. What's her
Already?
Yeah, she's a showrunner for. Do you know what show she's done? By chance?
The Attorney?
One Day at a Time?
Yes.
What's her name? Somebody else, yeah.
No. Yes, Gloria. Do you know her? Calderon? Is that how you say that name?
That's something similar.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, Gloria Calderon. Anyway, she's a showrunner. She's Latina, and I heard her speak. Huh?
Calderon.
Yeah.
Calderon.
Yes, there you go. And so she's a showrunner.
She's Puerto Rican.
And so I heard her speak. And here's the thing, this is what I mean by email list. So I teach at LMU, right? Social media. Now she was coming to speak. She's a showrunner. She's actually staffing for her show. At the moment that we were there, she was talking about how she was, staffing for something. And in the room, it was open to the public. Okay, this was open to the public. I had invited a friend of mine. I said, come with me. Like, aren't you interested in blah, blah, blah? So she came with me. And there was like maybe 40 people in the room. Now, let me tell you, any event where we have showrunners, it's going to be, you know what I mean? But it was like a small room, and they're students. They were all students, so they couldn't even, for the most part, they're trying to finish school, so they're not trying to necessarily, like, go on a show right now. You know what I mean? Like right now. So if you were someone that was trying to go on a show, it would be an open door, right? You walk up to her, shake your hands, so that's why I encourage her again. But that would be being on LMU's public events email list for public events. But you gotta go on there and find that. That's not something that's like publicly announced, because they don't want hundreds of people showing up to their school for whatever. They want to keep it private too, but it is open for the community, so they do have, and that's like that's not just LMU, that's all of them, like UCLA, all of the different, sometimes it's the subgroups within UCLA, it'll be like the Black Accountant Association is having a thing, but it's like open to the public, and it's drinks with so-and-so, and it's just,
And then how do you saying get on that list?
Right, you got to kind of research to get on the general email list of some of the companies or the organizations within the schools, but they're it's public. It's not like it's a private entity thing. But
so what happened?
But so here's my point though. When I was meeting with her, I did not meet with her. I'm saying when I was hearing her talk, my point was just that she was talking about during her career. She was like, I was just like so frustrated. I was like, ooh yes, and she was like, I was just so frustrated, and I was just I was just doing stuff. She was like, I was just doing this, doing that. Like I wake up and just send emails to so and so, saying like she didn't have an agent. She was just trying to get an agent. She was trying to get represented. It was just all like, and she was like, in one day, after all her just doing, she got a meeting with the agent, and it just went. And for her, she started off, I think, in like comedy. She started off as like a comedian, I think, and then kind of transitioned that into acting, and then transitioned that into showrunner, And so even now, she's not even a huge showrunner. Like most people in here don't even know her name. Mm-hmm. So guess what? That means she's not being knocked on. Those doors aren't knocking. Nobody's knocking on her door right now. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you. And also, neither is who she's rep by. Because I then researched her management company because I was trying to bring them to come speak. And I was like, who's this management company? And I'm like, oh, okay, I guarantee you, I don't even remember the name of the company, but I guarantee you, no one is knocking, you can find it on IMDb Pro, no one is knocking on those management doors. People are knocking on the door of, we can easily find a list somewhere, when you Google, which we should be doing that too, but it's like when you keep digging into your research, you might be able to find some open doors or some ways that maybe people aren't, but everyone's trying to contact Lena Waithe, Shonda Rhimes. Those people say good luck with that, that's cool if it works, but I'm just saying try to find some people who aren't so public about what they're doing, like the guy we had last week or a couple weeks ago, Carl Seaton. He's a director, so it's not applicable for the situation, but the fact that the stuff that he's directed is incredible, all the different shows he's been on. And so, but you're not necessarily, no one really knows him per se, because he's just about his game. He's just trying to do his work. So the more you can find people and access to people like that, the more beneficial you will be. And those are the kind of people that might be a mentor, because they're not being, you know what I mean? Those are the people that might kind of like, might spend a little time on a phone call or something. And if not her, maybe, someone in the management team or whatever, So, yeah. Cool. All right, cool guys. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So much information.
Dang, great. Hopefully it's helpful.
Yeah, you want me out.
Sorry.